Ghost. Cold-hearted. Yeah, the cracker got a cap, but we gon' do the do. 100 band foreign car, we ain't rooted poo. Of y'all young, we keep a case, dog, Scooby-Doo. See a coon, slap a coon, I went 2 for 2. Yeah, y'all color, but y'all squares, 2 a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, and just how I mentioned, you know, I'm gonna go into the etymology for the word mature. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna demonstrate how mature and perfect and complete, all of these things are interchangeable in the context that we're speaking, because we're speaking about the biblical perspective and how we're charged to be perfect, you know, as we're reading in Torah right now, and then we're going to read, you know, from Christ's words, the same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the etymology for the word mature. So can you just read this top one right here?
Con.
I can blow it up. Matter of fact, Salakia.
Yeah, I can see it, but
Oh,
yeah,
you see it?
probably,
Okay.
yeah, you probably need to do it for the viewers though.
Con. How's this look?
Look good.
Con.
C1400 maturing. Encourage separation. Mid 15C of plants. I guess mid 15th century of plants. Cause to ripen, bring to maturity. From Latin, maturare, to ripen, bring to maturity. From maturus, ripe, timely, early. Related to main or manier, early of the morning. From pi, metu, ripeness. Divan writes that the root is probably the same as in manus, good, in transitive sense of come to a state of ripeness. Become ripe or perfect is from 1650s. The financial sense of reach the time for payment is by 1861. Related matured, maturing.
Con. So right here, this is the word mature, or the etymology for it. And as a brother read, we see that it comes from a Latin word that means to ripen or to bring to maturity. And it originally, as we read, it originally carried the connotation of things like plants becoming ripe. And as we read in the definition, over time, it started to carry the connotation of reaching a perfect or complete state, right? And so that's the verb sense of that, because as you read at the end of it, it says related, matured, maturing, right? And those are verbs, which would be in what past and present / future tense. So that's a verb sense. So we're going to read the adjective for it.
Con. Mature, the adjective form. Mid 15th century of fruits, ripe, complete in natural growth or development. Also of deliberations, etc. Careful, well considered, thorough. From Latin maturus, ripe, timely, early. See mature, the verb. Of persons having fully developed powers of body and mind. Century 1600. The euphemistic sense of older than usual is by 1953, also from mid 15th century.
Con, and this is that's also pointing out the range of a particular word and how it, you know, came to be used and how it was used, and you know, different times and things like that. But you know, again, we see that the word mature, it carries the same meaning, you know, dealing with a thoroughness, complete, ripe, etc. Right. So before I move on, King, you have any points you want to bring up?
Most definitely. Something that's key to pay attention to is that as far as what the brother's been bringing out, we're highlighting certain things that's actually showing the importance of going into the original language of the text. Especially like dealing with something like perfect and seeing these different usages. And then we're going into this online etymology dictionary, and you see the difference in how a word is used century after century after century. So this should be something that's very prevalent in your studies, that you understand when you read something, maybe you need to look into what that word originally meant, because it gives you a better understanding of what the text is trying to convey to you. So yeah, awesome lesson so far.
All praises to the Most High, and excellent point. I would second that, and yeah, I don't have anything I could add to it. So all praises to the Most High. Now we're gonna jump back to Matthew chapter 5 and verse 48, and I'm sure the brother, he's gonna have some points on this as well. Yeah, man. So this is Matthew 5:48. If you can just read that one verse.
So this is Matthew 5 and verse 48. It says, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect."
So right here we have the Messiah commanding that we be perfect as our Father in heaven is perfect, and this mirrors what was said in Deuteronomy the 18th chapter and the 13th verse. Now let's take a look at the immediate context of the passage. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump up a few verses, and then we're gonna tackle some of the things that are spoken about in here. And real quick before I go into it, do you have any points? Because like we're gonna be on this for a little bit, but I know you wanted to bring this out earlier.
Well, it was gonna be reading the context.
Okay.
And kind of elaborating on some stuff, but let's go ahead and read it.
Okay. See that? Oh, praises. All right, so you can read 43 through 44.
It says, "Ye have heard that it hath been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you."
So the Messiah mentioned how it was heard or understood that it was said to love your neighbor and hate your enemy. Now, you have a lot of people that misapply this passage, and I know the brother Hurt is aware of this, and I'm sure some of y'all on the stream have witnessed it. But a lot of people, they try to misapply this verse and say, well, look, this is Christ telling you that you have to love Moab and love Edom that's whipping your back in, and all of these things, right? But that's not what was actually being communicated here, and that's not even it's not remotely the context of what's being addressed and what's being spoken to on this particular mount, because this is understood as a Sermon on the Mount. So the Messiah, he's actually addressing some things that are prominent or that are pressing in his community, that are pressing toward his people, because there are things that, and there are doctrines that are being spread and taught just within the Israelite community at this particular time, that have to be corrected. Just like today, nothing new is under the sun, right? So just real quick, I want to make a point or a few points. Two things, right? People that misapply this passage, they're typically ignorant of one. There are no explicit texts in the Old Testament that say verse 43, that say to love your neighbor and hate your enemy. There are no explicit Old Testament verses that say such a thing. And secondly, a lot of people that, again, misapply this verse, they're not privy to the contemporaneous writings that contained material that expressed this sentiment, the sentiment of hating your enemies, right? And contextually speaking, what Christ would have been addressing is, hating, enemies of your own people. And we even see within the same book of Matthew, where the Messiah, he literally says, your enemies shall be them of your own house. That's in Matthew, I want to say chapter 10, right? So we even see him following that theme and explaining this and telling you that, hey, they're going to be at enmity towards you, but, you still have to love them. you know, you still have to pray for them. They're still your people. And Paul, he makes a similar statement. I think in Romans 11, where he says, you know, even the enemies of the gospel, you know, they're still beloved by the Father's sake. So the Most High still loves them. They're still his people. You still gotta love them, right? So, and we see that play out in the book of Acts. Like, you know, it was a good amount of Jews that were like on the apostles' head and giving them a hard time, but the apostles, they couldn't turn around and say, well, you know, they my enemy, so I hate them. Like, they couldn't turn around and do anything like that. So, you know, that's one point. But again, just dealing with the contemporary writings that existed during the time of the Messiah, you know, it's very important to, you know, try to take a look at these things, because it actually, they can, you know, they can actually you know, shine a little bit of light to what was going on at this particular time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show y'all what was being taught during this time.
And I'm gonna make
So
a point too on
Con,
that passage.
go ahead, Ken.
So, like with this passage, how it talks about us loving our neighbor and hating our enemy, not to hate our enemy. It says, "But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you." If you're still dealing with trying to execute this, that means there's still some work you got to do to get to completion or perfection. Because something like this is hard, because you got to really swallow your pride and say, much as this person done did to me, I'm still gonna do what the Most High God want me to do. It's my brother, it's my sister in Christ, and yeah, I may have to rebuke them, but I still gotta love them. And that part of that rebuking is actually showing that you love them. So if you haven't got to this point yet, if you're still struggling with it, it's something you need to lock in on and say, hey, man, I need to get here. I can't forsake this, because this is gonna prevent me from getting to the point of perfection. But yeah, you got it.
Con, man. Yeah, that's precisely, you know, what I'm going into tonight. So that was an excellent point. All
All
praise,
praise.
Con, man. And then just to show the, you know, the contemporary writings that existed during the time of Christ, I'll show this. This is just one example. Like, you have stuff like this all over. But I just wanted to bring this example out. This is from you know, the Dead Sea Scrolls, or the Dead Sea Scroll findings. And it's called, the document is called 1QS, which is also known as the Rule of the Community. And this was in circulation during the time of Christ. And just keep in mind, the brothers that wrote this, or that are responsible for this doctrine, or these documents, are some Jews, or were some Jews that were living in the Judean desert, right? And they were known as, or they came to be known as, the Essenes. So just a little bit of backstory, and the name of the source is The Complete Dead Sea Scrolls in English by Geza Vermes. So what you can do, I just read the highlighted portion right here. It's like dark highlighted, and then I'm gonna scroll down for more.
He shall admit into the covenant of grace all those who have freely devoted themselves to the observance of God's precepts, that they may be joined to the counsel of God and may live perfectly.
And you can read the rest that's highlighted.
Before him, Salaki, the community rule. Before him, in accordance with all that has been revealed concerning their appointed times, and that they may love all the sons of light, each according to his lot in God's design, and hate all the sons of darkness, each according to his guilt in God's vengeance.
So, you know, on the surface, this don't really sound too bad. You know, it's you know, it's talking about, you know, keeping God's precepts and things like that. And also it mentions, I think it mentions the word perfect, because I was looking in here. It touches on, yep, yeah, it says in so they may be joined to the counsel of God and may live perfectly, right? That word perfect right there. This is written in Hebrew. This is the Hebrew word tamim. Ironically speaking, the same word that was in Deuteronomy. But basically what they're communicating is that, you know, to, to live devoted, or to live a devoted life to the Most High, to keep His law and live perfectly, but this includes, again, loving the sons of light, and they make provision for that. You could love the sons of light, and you can hate the sons of darkness, right? And so, for people that are not familiar with the context here, this particular context, it shows the sons of light and the sons of darkness, and the sons of darkness are represented by anyone who is outside of this community, and so basically anyone outside of this community, they're viewed as the sons of darkness, because they don't adhere to the Torah in the manner that this community does. And you can find this sentiment cleanly, all throughout their literature, which is a part of the Dead Sea Scroll findings. But just real quick, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull another excerpt from their from their literature, just to show the sentiment. And the name of this document is called 4QMMT. This is from the same authors, right? So let me pull this up. And again, keep in mind, it allows you to hate all the sons of darkness, because again, like, if you're not within this community, you're not joined to the Most High and living perfectly, from their eyes. So you're allowed to hate other Israelites. That includes other Israelites. That includes the heathen. It's kind of wild, and it's actually anti-Torah, because the Torah already tells us to love our fellow Israelite as ourselves, right? So just real quick, I'm gonna pull this up, and then we're gonna jump back to Matthew 5 momentarily. And page 228. And you could just read the highlighted portion.
And you know that we have separated from the mass of the people, and from mingling with them in these matters, and from being in contact with them in these matters. And you know that no treachery or lie or evil is found in our hands, for we give for these.
Gone. And yeah, and it's it's fragmented writing. So like some things are like broken up, right? And this is a case of that. But as you're reading, or as we was reading on the sentiments that was communicated, is basically the fact that they had separated themselves from everyone, and this is including the other Jews, which were would have been in the land of Judea and all over, just dealing with the diaspora in and of itself, so all of the Jews and Israelites everywhere, they've separated themselves from the mass of the people. So this includes the Israelites, the heathen, etc. Right? And so basically, anyone that was, whether you could be the most quote unquote righteous Pharisee in the land, you're a son of darkness and you're wicked to these people. You could be, Peter or whoever, like, you're a son of darkness and you're wicked because you're not within this particular community. And this is mainly because of their stringent standards and how they look at the Torah and how they explain certain things. But the reason why I'm bringing this out is, because they already told you that it's all right to hate the sons of darkness. And so you had similar doctrines to this floating in Israel. Like, you would have had Pharisees teaching a similar thing, Sadducees, etc. Like that, you see, like, it's even you kind of see reflections of this during a time of like some of the apocryphal writings. Like, you see things like that. And again, it's not, all good things considered, like, our people, what we want to do is we want to get back to the Most High. We don't want to get entangled with wickedness, so we try to, do what they call putting a fence around Torah. So we want to, guard the Torah, and we want to, make it where like, hey man, ain't no wickedness. Like, even if you other Israelites are wicked, like, we not dealing with y'all, we hate y'all, etc. We deal with the Most High. But in that, ironically enough, you actually break Torah by doing such a thing. But this would have been, a common thing that would have been done, during the time of Christ and the apostles and things like that. So again, as I mentioned, they said it, it was okay to hate the sons of darkness, right? And that's anybody outside of their community. But by them doing this, they're actually breaking the law, right? Because they would be hating other Israelites. But when Christ speaks in Matthew 5, as we touched on, and as a brother read, and I'll read it again, he says, "But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them that despitefully use you and persecute you," right? So whether you think they're wicked or whether they're doing something towards you, etc., you have to love them regardless. Like, I know the brother Hurt, he would carry the same sentiment. So some of our brothers that's not in the truth, that's not, adhering to, the Most High's word and Christ and things like that. It could be a little bit vexing, having to see them and deal with them,
Not a
right?
little.
Yeah, of course. Keep it all good things considered, right? It could be a lot vexing, right? But we still have to love them at the end of the day because they're Israelites, and just like how Paul said, it's his heart's desire that Israel be saved, right? So, like, we just hope they repent. But at the same time, like, again, it's like, I think the brother, he touched on it. Like, it's easier said than done, and a lot of people, they would rather take the quote unquote easy way out. But this is showing maturity or completeness or perfection for you, like, in spite of them doing all of these things, whether they're persecuting you, whether they're doing this, that, and the third, or whether they are doing one of some of the main stuff that you got us into captivity, and they continuing to do it. Like, you still have to love them, right? And that of course would include rebuking them, as we see in the law itself. But there's a little bit more on this.
Ghost. Cold-hearted. Yeah, the cracker got a cap, but we gon' do the do. 100 band foreign car, we ain't rooted poo. Of y'all young, we keep a case, dog, Scooby-Doo. See a coon, slap a coon, I went 2 for 2. Yeah, y'all color, but y'all squares, 2 a Rubik's Cube. She